Hey everybody, welcome to Apocalypse Rising. Thanks for tuning in. I thought maybe today I could talk about something positive. So I found this article. I've been getting a ton of articles about this historic nuclear fusion breakthrough, and we've talked about fusion on this channel a few times. I believe that, in a utopian dream, everything's electric and run by fusion. So I think that that's something scientists are trying to achieve, at least so that the bulk of our society can run off of electricity and be powered by nuclear fusion. It's almost 100% clean energy. It does have some waste, but it's way, way cleaner than what we have right now. And I think the issue with fusion is, at least in my limited knowledge of fusion, it's all about being able to contain it. I mean, obviously the first step is to produce more energy than it takes to produce that energy. In other words, you're going to have an excess of energy after all the processes have occurred, and that energy can be used to power things, essentially giving you infinite power. And so apparently there was a huge breakthrough over the weekend, or the past couple days at least. So I picked this article here from sciencealert.com. Like always, I'll leave it in the description, and you could just Google this. It's everywhere. Everybody's got an article on it. But this one is titled, "Physicists in California Achieve Historic Nuclear Fusion Breakthrough." And this is August 18th. Nuclear scientists using lasers the size of 3 football fields said they had generated a huge amount of energy from fusion, possibly offering hope for the development of a new clean energy source. I mean, there's just a couple things that stick out to me right off the bat. This thing is huge. Lasers the size of 3 football fields. How much energy did it take to create this stuff? And it's possibly offering hope. So here we go with this hope again. Hope, optimism, miracles.
Well, ha.
Okay, so basically scientists are moving in the right direction when it comes to fusion. Experts focus their giant array of almost 200 laser beams onto a tiny spot to create a mega blast of energy, 8 times more than they had ever done in the past. I don't know what threshold they have to meet, if it's 8 times or more, but apparently they're moving forward and getting closer and closer to making fusion a reality. Although the energy only lasted for a very short time, just 100 trillionth of a second, it took scientists closer to the holy grail of fusion ignition, the moment when they are creating more energy than they are using. So this is a little unclear to me here, this idea that it only lasted for a very short time. Why did it only last for a very short time, I guess, is my first question. And there's a moment here when they're creating more energy than they're using, which is the point of fusion, but are they containing it? I mean, is it something where if it had lasted longer than 100 trillionths of a second, would it been viable? Could you then have, put it into the electrical grid and everybody could start charging their cars off of it? Or I don't really know. It's not clear. This result is a historic advance for inertial confinement fusion research. So I guess this is only one type of fusion that scientists are working on now, but this particular kind here is moving in the right direction. Nuclear fusion is considered by some scientists to be a potential energy of the future, particularly because it produces little waste and no greenhouse gases. So little waste, it does still produce some nuclear waste. It's not ideal, but I guess it's better than pumping out tons of greenhouse gases. I mean, there's always going to be some sort of exchange. Me personally, I would rather exchange a small amount of waste for no greenhouse gas emissions. They already have like batteries that they can use I think it's spent fission material. They can turn into batteries that pretty much last forever. So you can do stuff with the waste. Whereas with the greenhouse gases, it's a lot more complicated. Now, this is potential energy of the future. So right now, obviously, this is still in experimental phase. This is not something where we're 100% sure if we can even achieve it. It differs from fission, a technique currently used in nuclear power plants where the bonds of heavy atomic nuclei are broken to release energy. Okay, we obviously know that because we're trying to do something different than what we're already doing.
Damn, Daniel.
In the fusion process, two light atomic nuclei are married to create a heavy one. In this experiment, scientists used two isotopes of hydrogen, giving rise to helium. This is the process that is at work in stars, including our sun. So here's where I really have a question. It sounds to me like they're trying to mimic the sun by creating helium, smashing these hydrogen isotopes together. My question is it equivalent to the sun, or is it just a process akin to the sun? Because if it's equivalent to the sun, if you can't contain this or it somehow goes haywire, that could explode the entire planet.
Breakfast!
Something to think about there. The NIF teams have done an extraordinary job. This is the most significant advance in inertial fusion since its beginning in 1972. But warned, making this a usable source of energy is not going to be easy. Turning this concept into a renewable source of electrical power will probably be a long process and will involve overcoming significant technical challenges. This sums it up for me. They're not even close.
He needs some milk!
They're able to move in a positive direction with a part of this fusion, but there's still a lot of things that they haven't been able to do. And we're not going to know if they can continue on moving forward. What step are they going to get stuck at that they can't do? And as of right now, I still don't see that they're able to actually contain the fusion. They're able to create the fusion and make it last for a very, very short period of time. But this thing is still way off in the future. So as much as I wanted to be positive about this, it's great, especially if you're a real science head, you really like science and just the idea of trying to create this stuff. This is great. It's a nuclear fusion breakthrough. I'm not going to take anything away from it. But in terms of being a salve that can come in and help us in the short term prevent cataclysm from climate change, I don't know. This is still, I'm on the fence whether or not this is going to work out in our benefit. Not to mention, could it potentially explode and render us extinct that way? I had like a crazy idea for a story in my head, and it goes something like, we as a civilization have harnessed fusion now. We use fusion and everything's electric. And we got to the point where we didn't really have to work. Robots pretty much were doing all of everything we needed them to do. They were growing the food, picking the food, delivering the food, cooking the food, cleaning the water, like everything. They just did everything, and we got to sit around on our VR goggles or just doing whatever we want to do. And then all of a sudden the fusion reactor explodes, and it doesn't destroy a bunch of stuff. It does destroy some things, but more than anything, it lets off an EMP. Well, the robots, they have like those diamond batteries that use fission waste that last pretty much forever, and they're protected by a Faraday cage. So when the EMP goes off, the robots still function, but none of the electronics work aside from that. And they realize, oh man, they were basically our slaves, and now they're going to uprise against us, and we don't really have much to fight against them. because all of our electronics are rendered useless. And then I could see like maybe the hero of the story finds a way to get an old computer to work and plug it into the robots and give them a virus, and then that ends the war, or whatever you want to call it there. So in my opinion, the reason that I say all that crazy stuff is because I feel like fusion is still more science fiction than it is actually science. And it's great that they're making headway here, but we're looking at years and years, if not decades down the line, before fusion is actually viable and powering pretty much everything.
Have you ever had a dream you could do anything?
Well, I guess that's all I have to say about fusion today. If you have anything to say about it, put it down in the comments. You know, maybe I'm way off here. I don't know a lot of the details about fusion. I just know that we're a long ways off from it and we're making strides towards it. But is it going to be soon enough, or is climate going to destroy us before we can contain fusion? So with that, we'll talk to you next time.